Hello, this is Frank Neely from HeartlandDiaryUSA.com, bringing you news every conservative can use. Subscribe to my YouTube channel to stay up to date. File this one under Have They No Shame. 2 days after the president was acquitted on the fake impeachment charges, Hallie Jackson of MSNBC interviewed John Brennan, the former CIA director who was right at the heart of the coup plot against the President of the United States, asking him about the dangers that the country faces now that President Trump remains in office. You just have to hear it to believe it.
Because on the same day that President Trump was acquitted by the Senate on charges he pushed a foreign power to investigate his rivals, the Attorney General Bill Barr issued a memo to federal agents and lawyers telling them they really can't open investigations into presidential candidates, their campaigns, their advisors, without his approval. That's meant to avoid potentially influencing the presidential election, since some have argued the FBI shaped the outcome of the 2016 race. Let me bring in now on set John Brennan. He served as CIA director under President Obama and acting director of the National Counterterrorism Center under President George W. Bush. He is now an MSNBC senior national security and intelligence analyst. Director Brennan, thanks for being back on the show.
Sure thing, Hallie.
So, legitimate move here by the Attorney General Bill Barr. Does it strike you as unusual or not really?
Well, I think if we had an Attorney General who was interested most in protecting the rule of law as opposed to defending Donald Trump, it would be a very appropriate step, because you want to make sure that something is not going to have even the appearance of being a politicized investigation. So I do think it's very legitimate that there needs to be that senior level oversight and approval of these investigations, because we're in such a politicized environment right now. But again, William Barr, I think, has demonstrated time and again that he's most interested in being Donald Trump's defense lawyer as opposed to the Attorney General.
So for you, it's a case of right message, wrong messenger?
Well, I think it's the right message, but it's to be seen with how the implementation of it is going to go.
Is it unusual for something like this to happen?
Well, I think right now, looking back on 2016 and also 2018, I think the government is right to be able to take some additional steps to ensure that the investigations are going to proceed appropriately, and when there is a sufficient predication, to use William Barr's language. But I am concerned that there is a real political sort of overcast to what's going on right now at the Attorney General's office.
And we should note, too, it's not just presidential campaigns. This affects House and Senate candidates as well for the Attorney General. You also have the president delivering remarks at the White House. I was there in the East Room for that sort of, I think it was about an hour long. We were sort of packed in the back there watching the president surrounded by his top allies and defenders. And he really went hard after somebody that I know you know, former FBI Director James Comey, and other law enforcement officials as well. Here's what he said.
They were going to try and overthrow the government of the United States, a duly elected president. And if I didn't fire James Comey, we would have never found this stuff. Because when I fired that sleazebag, all hell broke out. They were ratting on each other. They were running for the hills. Let's see what happens. In my opinion, these are the crookedest, most dishonest, dirtiest people I've ever seen.
How does this affect the way that the intelligence community, the way that law enforcement can work in this administration, in your view?
Well, just hearing that makes my blood boil. So I know that there are individuals within the FBI who feel the same way. But Donald Trump's behavior and comments yesterday were despicable, utterly detestable. I don't see how anybody could, in fact, defend his performance yesterday. I have seen this script play out so many times overseas, where you have a power-hungry, narcissistic individual who relies on the ignorance of many people, as well as corrupt politicians and ideologues, in order to continue to solidify his hold on power. And that's what we see with Donald Trump. He is not interested in doing what is right for the country or for, the American people. He's interested most in doing what is going to advance his personal interests. So, it's so unfortunate that what we saw in the impeachment hearings, that only a person like Mitt Romney actually called upon his conscience and did the right thing.
But based on what we saw from the president over these last 24 hours, Director, he doesn't seem to have a lot of interest in looking back and sort of reflecting on that. He's ready to move on here. So, stepping back for you, how does this country move on? Where does this go from here?
Well, I think, we're in this election campaign season, and I think we have to make sure that we're going to try to course correct and try to get away from what we see right now happening at the helm of our government, and continue to try to, focus on what is right as opposed to what might be politically expedient. And I am so disappointed in so many of those members of Congress on the Republican side, both in the House and the Senate, who I worked with and who I thought had more integrity than they have shown. They clearly are giving Donald Trump a pass. And one of the things
on the Republican side, obviously.
Oh, absolutely, yes. In the Senate as well as in the House. And the thing is that, Donald Trump will take credit for everything, such as, the economy that we have right now. Well, it's not just because of Donald Trump, that we have such a strong economy, but also he tends to be mortgaging our future in terms of, increasing the national debt and refusing to acknowledge the problems associated with climate change. So I think these are the issues that the American people need to focus on and not just listen to Donald Trump's snake oil pitch.
Director John Brennan, thank you for being with us here on set on this Friday morning. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Hallie.
Good to see you.